What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Anti-Flag. Only reacted to them a couple times so far. I am a huge fan of them, or at least I'm a huge fan of their work from like the early 90s when they first started releasing material, even though I think they got started in the late 80s. On up through maybe like the late aughties when I stopped paying attention to them as much, which again, not really the fault of the band. It was just, by the late aughties, I was sort of really getting back into DJing after like a few year like semi hiatus. So yeah, bottom line, the period from like maybe 93, which I think is a new kind of, or no wait, 94, I think is Die for the Government. I think A New Kind of Army is like 97. And then Underground Network is like 2000. Bottom line, the period from like the mid 90s to the late aughties is the period of Anti-Flag I know the best. I am a big fan of them. I haven't done as many reactions, partly because, I've been trying to do a lot of Bad Religion and Propagandhi and Subhuman, some of my like really favorite bands, which I love Anti-Flag, but I'm going to perhaps put them on like a half-step tier, like below the bands I just mentioned, which, are some of my very favorite bands, but I'd put them on the same level as bands like, I don't know, like Bad Brains and, Rise Against, other bands that I do like a great deal. And for the record, I did see a show at the Anaheim House of Blues where it was Anti-Flag and Rise Against. It was a fantastic show. I'm going to say this is like '04 maybe? I'm trying to remember the exact year. It was first half of the aughties, or the 2000s as they are sometimes called. But yeah, also because it seemed like there wasn't as a big a response. I think, not to single you out, but I think Ryan even mentioned he's not like a huge fan of the band, so I totally respect that. Different strokes for different folks, but I have been a fan of their sort of ethos and their values, and there's been a few songs where like one or two lines I'm like, well, but bottom line, I agree with many of their principles and platforms and values. They're good people in addition to being good punk rock musicians, and I've seen them a couple times. Once with Rise Against, I'm forgetting who else played with them the other time I saw them, but they were fantastic both times. And just as a side point, their drummer, who goes by the name Pat Thetic, he has this like maniacal face when he plays drums, and I remember being the first time I saw them, which was before I saw them with Rise Against. I remember just being endlessly amused by this. Like the whole show, I was like, man, look at him. He's like having so much fun, and/or has completely lost his mind. So yeah, we're gonna listen to a tune. Speaking of insane and losing your mind, called Spaz's House Destruction Party. So the original song was on the Underground Network album, which again, I think it's 2000, or is it 2001? Does it say it here? It doesn't say it there. I'll have to look it up and put it in the comments, but yeah, it's either 2000 or 2001. It's like right at the turn of the millennium. Big fan of this album. It was the album, again, I had gotten one album before this. I had gotten whatchamacallit, A New Kind of Army, like when that came out. I think that was the first one that I discovered from them, and I very quickly after that, yeah, I'm trying to remember actually. I think it might even be the other way around. I think I actually might have gotten them in order. I might have gotten Die for the Government. Is it Die for, yeah, the Government. I was thinking it was Your Government, but yeah, I think I got Die for the Government first. I'm actually like having a hard time remembering the chronology, but bottom line, like I was already a fan of them by the time this came out, but I think this was their first album on Fat. And at the time I was excited because Propagandhi was on Fat, and like some bands that I really enjoyed were on Fat Records, so I was interested to see if there was any detectable change in their sound. I wouldn't say there necessarily was, though I do think like just in terms of the specific songs, it's a different album than A New Kind of Army, again, which I very much enjoy, and is like in some ways like maybe my favorite. It's hard to pick a favorite when there's like 10 or so albums. I think I have like 8 by them, not as many as Bad Religion or so on, but yeah, there's enough like variety that it's hard to pick a single favorite, but I do like that one a lot. But again, this is from Underground Network, and it's called Spaz's House Destruction Party. We're then going to listen to a live version on Mobilize, and I want to say this is like '06 or '07. The first half of it, maybe it's even before that, maybe it's like '04. Again, it's not like conveniently listed here. On neither on the back side nor the front side of the like disc itself. But yeah, I remember the first half of this is like songs that were written by the band in the wake of 9/11. So the first half of it is kind of like an EP of new like studio material, and then the back half of the song are live performances like in the preceding like year or two before that. So I'm gonna say it's probably closer to 2001. So it's probably like 03 or 04 this came out. As I said, I'll put it in the comments. But yeah, there's a live version of Spaz's House Destruction Party. So we're gonna listen to the studio version and then the live version. They're queued up back to back. It's clearly about an insane party that happened, and I think like there's a in the live version, I think Spaz is there, and there's a like he sings like the line that he said in like the historical event that happened. But yeah, I guess there was a party of punks and anarchists and so on, and it was at this sort of like dilapidated house, and people were kind of just breaking stuff and just messing with stuff and throwing stuff on the walls and so on, to the point where it was essentially like the whole house was like getting trashed. Eventually, I don't know, because of that or because of like complaints about noise or whatever, the cops were called, and they show up, and basically the cop is like, do any of you actually live here? And one of the people replies in the affirmative. I won't spoil the moment, but they don't exactly say it that way. But yeah, it's like a fun, like having it sort of song, and it's based on a historical party that sounds like, and I think there's even a line that like, if you were there, then you know what it was like, but it can't really be explained. So it just sounds like one of those parties is like absolutely insane. I've been to a couple, but not quite like that. Not to the point where like the house is getting destroyed. But I've been like at parties where crazy shit has gone down. So in a way, I can sort of like understand the sort of atmosphere of like an insane party that for like years after, people were like, bro, were you there? Did you see that shit? So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. Let's get to it. This is Anti-Flag, Spaz's House Destruction Party. First from the Underground Network album, and then from the live album Mobilize.
I wanna tell you a little story, but I put it the word alright, but when I'm wrong. I wanna tell you a little story, but I put it.
You know the line. Yeah, that's the only line right there. Hey, that's right. The Oi punk vibes are strong. I love that tonal shift in the guitars right there. I was thinking though that word, that nickname, under renewed scrutiny. Wow, when guitars there. That's right. If you were there, you'll know you're lucky you lived. Again, I've been to some crazy parties. Not on that level though. Techno people have parties like that too, man.
Yeah, it is.
I forgot, it's not do you live here, is this what this house has always looked like? Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's the live version where the answer is saucier. But I was thinking of the live version response.
I wanna tell a little story, but I put it that went alright, but went out wrong. I wanna tell a little story,
Intro
but I
sounds
put it
nearly
in
identical.
the song. Hey! Hey, 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 hey! Hey, hey, hey! It happened back in '93, and I think we're promoting. Let them go now, get it from me. It was all a mess then. Wanna get it all broken. It was
You can barely tell the difference that it's not the studio version.
I think I'll have one more party at my place.
I think that's Spaz. But it's like the drums have a slightly more live sound, but apart from that, it's like, it's on. Those back screams and shouts. So I think it's Chris number 2. Nothing in the kitchen left to break.
Fucking right, pig.
Bit saucier. Suddenly heard the bass very clearly, which I think is also Chris number 2. I think Justin is guitars and vocals.
Well, one of you in the back there.
I want to know what they were asking. Will one of you in the back pass up some water? Like, what was? I wonder what that was. But yeah, it's a cool tune. Like I said, it's one of those, like, if you go through like a night like that, it doesn't surprise me that you end up writing a song about it. Because those are sort of legendary things. And again, it says at the very beginning, this was like within the Pittsburgh like punk rock scene. So it was about like punks within the larger scene in that city will like have remembered this. So yeah, it totally makes sense to me that this is a song that they would write. I do enjoy it, and like I said, as I was listening to the live version, I was struck. I was gonna say shocked. I was like, that's way too strong. But I was struck by the fidelity to the studio version. As I said, those drums had like a slightly more live sound, but overall the song sounded very, very close to the studio version. So shout out to them for that. Although again, I think that was like actually Spaz like at that show. So that was a cool touch. But yeah, let me know what you think of the band. Let me know what you think of the tune. Other than that, I will see you next time. Peace.